Aronson, The Social Animal. Self-justification. Have you ever found yourself justifying your actions, beliefs, or feelings? Let's explore the concept of self-justification and cognitive dissonance. Take Sam, for example. Under hypnosis, he bought bourbon on a sunny day, and later tried to justify his actions despite not remembering being hypnotized. In an experiment, people injected with epinephrine either knew its effects or were misled. Their beliefs affected how they justified their physiological responses. Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance arises from holding contradictory beliefs or attitudes. People are motivated to reduce the discomfort by changing their beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors. Cigarette smokers might downplay the risks to justify their behavior. People's commitment to attitudes can influence their perception of events and information. During a rough football game between Princeton and Dartmouth, students from each school interpreted the game differently based on their allegiances. Our beliefs and attitudes can influence our perception of events. When confronted with dissonance, people often avoid information that contradicts their beliefs. Our responses to conflicting information are often driven by our desire to maintain a positive self-image and consistent beliefs. Dissonance reduction and rational behavior. Research by Edward Jones and Rika Kohler showed that dissonance reduction can lead to memory distortion and irrational behavior. Participants deeply committed to positions on racial segregation recalled arguments that aligned with their pre-existing beliefs, even if those arguments were implausible. Further research by Charles Lord, Lee Ross, and Mark Lepper demonstrated how people process information in a biased manner to fit their existing notions. In an experiment on capital punishment, students opposing or favoring it selectively interpreted research articles, reinforcing their initial beliefs rather than converging after exposure to differing evidence. The theory of cognitive dissonance doesn't deny human capacity for rational behavior but suggests that a substantial portion of behavior is not purely rational. People justify their actions to maintain a positive self-image. Dissonance as a consequence of making a decision. After making a choice, we tend to focus on the positive aspects of our decision. We also downplay the positive qualities of unchosen alternatives. This behavior is seen in consumer decisions, such as choosing between a compact car and an SUV. After choosing a compact car, the buyer may start ignoring potential safety concerns. This tendency to seek reassurance is also observed in advertising readership. People who recently purchased a certain car model are more likely to read ads about their chosen car and avoid ads for other makes. In romantic relationships, individuals tend to rate alternative partners as less attractive when committed to their current partners. They emphasize the positive aspects of their committed relationship. Some historical examples of the consequences of decisions. In 1944, Jews in Siut, Hungary, ignored potential danger to justify their decision not to take action against the systematic annihilation of their religious group. This self-justification ultimately led to their tragic deaths. During the Vietnam War, cognitive distortion and selective exposure to information caused the escalation of the conflict. The Joint Chiefs of Staff made decisions to escalate bombing despite evidence that it wouldn't achieve their goals. Similarly, the decision to invade Iraq in 2003 was influenced by President George W. Bush's desire to believe in the existence of weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. The administration interpreted ambiguous CIA reports as definitive proof of WMDs, leading to a costly war. Leaders are advised to seek advice from advisors outside their inner circle who won't be influenced by the need to justify earlier decisions. The escalation of decisions, where small commitments lead to larger ones, was evident in both the Vietnam War and in experimental studies. The importance of irrevocability. Studies show that when decisions are relatively irrevocable, individuals engage in cognitive processes aimed at justifying their choices and reducing dissonance. This means that the finality of a decision can trigger attitude shifts. For instance, a study involving racetrack gamblers found that people who had already placed their bets reported less certainty about their horse winning compared to those about to place their bets. This change in attitude resulted solely from the irrevocability of their choices. Similarly, a study conducted on a college campus demonstrated that irrevocability has a significant impact on decision-making. Participants in a photography class developed a stronger liking for the photograph they chose, even though their initial preferences were equal. The role of irrevocability is also explored in moral decision-making. When individuals make morally difficult choices, their attitudes often shift to justify their chosen action. In essence, the importance of irrevocability lies in its ability to trigger cognitive processes that justify decisions and align attitudes with chosen actions. The psychology of inadequate justification. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort we feel when our beliefs or attitudes conflict with our actions. This discomfort can lead to attitude change. This change occurs when there is inadequate external justification for our behavior. We seek to align our attitudes with our actions to reduce dissonance. Self-concept is also a significant factor in dissonance theory. We strive to view ourselves as consistent individuals, so when our behavior challenges our self-concept, we experience dissonance. For example, if we lie or cheat, we experience dissonance because it goes against our self-concept. We're motivated to reduce this dissonance by changing our attitudes. When external justification is insufficient, we're more likely to change our attitudes to align with our behavior. But when we have ample external justification, like a large reward, we experience less need to change our attitudes. Inadequate rewards as applied to education. Research shows that excessive external rewards can actually decrease intrinsic motivation and long-term enjoyment of tasks. In education, this can result in students not continuing to learn once rewards are removed. On the other hand, harsh punishment might not effectively deter unwanted behavior, but rather encourage individuals to avoid getting caught. This is where cognitive dissonance theory comes in. Cognitive dissonance theory suggests that fostering internal justifications can lead to more lasting behavioral changes and value development. A study involving children's toy preferences reinforces this idea. The justification of effort. Have you ever noticed that you tend to value something more when you've put in a lot of effort to achieve it? This is known as the justification of effort. This phenomenon is due to cognitive dissonance, where the effort and discomfort of achieving a goal clash with negative perceptions of the outcome. To reduce this dissonance, individuals construct more positive views of the goal or group. Research supports this idea. In an experiment involving college women and initiation into a psychology discussion group, those who underwent severe initiations rated the discussion as more enjoyable than those who experienced milder initiations or no initiation. Similarly, experiments involving painful electric shocks for group membership found that justifying the effort leads to a heightened appreciation of the group or goal. The phenomenon can also manifest through memory distortion. In a study, students who participated in a study skills course that didn't yield much improvement tended to misremember their initial study skills as worse than they actually were, reducing dissonance and preserving a sense of progress. This phenomenon can explain why individuals who put time and effort into improving themselves, such as through exercise, may feel satisfied even if they don't fully achieve their goals. They can distort their memories of their starting point to justify their efforts and perceived progress. The justification of cruelty. According to the author, people justify cruelty to reduce cognitive dissonance. This is the uncomfortable feeling of having inconsistent thoughts or beliefs. For example, after the Kent State shooting, people spread false rumors about the victims to justify their actions. This is consistent with dissonance theory. In an experiment by Davis and Jones, participants who insulted an innocent student rated him less favorably afterwards. This provides more evidence for the justification of cruelty. In another experiment by Glass, participants who shocked others rated them less favorably afterwards. This is especially true for those with high self-esteem. The author suggests that soldiers might dehumanize civilian victims more than military ones in war. This is a way of coping with guilt. Jones and Nisbet's theory suggests that people tend to attribute their own failures to external factors, but other people's failures to internal factors. This can lead to blaming victims for their own misfortunes. The Psychology of Inevitability. Experiments show that individuals tend to cope with negative and unavoidable situations by minimizing their negative aspects. This leads to a more positive outlook on the disliked events. However, this phenomenon changes when it involves highly probable, life-threatening, and uncontrollable events like earthquakes. In such cases, people often deny the likelihood or severity of the event due to the overwhelming sense of danger, leading to a lack of preparation. Similarly, the lack of concern regarding the threat of global warming, even though scientific evidence supports its significance, is due to the psychology of inevitability. People unconsciously reduce dissonance and underestimate potential regret associated with their decisions. The classic movie Casablanca serves as an example to illustrate that individuals are more adaptable in justifying their choices. Anticipated regret is usually less intense than imagined. The importance of self-esteem. When we commit to a course of action, it can affect our attitudes and perceptions. Factors like decision-making, effort, and belief in inevitability can influence our level of commitment. Individuals with high self-esteem experience stronger dissonance when engaging in immoral actions. This is because such actions conflict with their positive self-concept. An experiment found that college students with lowered self-esteem were more likely to cheat in a card game. This shows the link between self-esteem and behavior. Genuine self-esteem can have positive effects, like improved academic performance in children. However, superficial or narcissistic forms of self-esteem can lead to negative outcomes like aggression and bullying. Discomfort or self-perception. Daryl Baim's concept of self-perception suggests that people might not experience discomfort but instead interpret their actions and adjust their attitudes accordingly. For instance, if someone freely chooses a certain dessert, they might conclude that they must like it. This complicates the conventional cognitive dissonance theory, which states that discomfort motivates people to change attitudes or beliefs to reduce dissonance. But experiments show that participants in dissonance-arousing situations do report feelings of agitation and discomfort. Additionally, evidence from studies shows that dissonance affects cognitive performance similarly to other uncomfortable drive states like hunger and thirst. Neuroscientific studies reveal that cognitive dissonance activates emotional centers in the brain associated with pleasure. Dissonance reduction can even extend to physiological drives. Under specific conditions, dissonance reduction can lead to reduced experiences of hunger, thirst, and pain. Practical applications of dissonance theory. The theory has practical applications in various domains. For example, researchers have used it to address personal problems like obesity. The theory has also been employed to encourage safer sexual behavior. College students who composed speeches advocating condom use while being made aware of their own past failures to use condoms were more likely to report increased condom usage over time. In another study, the theory was applied to encourage water conservation among university students. Students who were induced to be mindful of their past wasteful showering behavior exhibited shorter showers. The theory even sheds light on the influence of cult leaders like Jim Jones. By analyzing the gradual escalation of commitments among followers, the theory helps explain how seemingly extreme actions can be taken in the context of increasing commitment over time. Journalist Thomas Friedman suggests that cognitive dissonance theory can help explain the motivations of individuals engaging in suicidal acts of terrorism. He posits that a sense of lost dignity and cognitive dissonance among certain young Muslim men can drive them to target the perceived source of their distress, often symbolized by America and the West. Dissonance reduction and culture. Research shows that cognitive dissonance is a universal experience. While most research has been conducted in North America, dissonance effects have been observed worldwide. In cultures with less individualism, dissonance-reducing behavior might take a more communal form. For instance, in Japan, people might adjust their evaluations based on the statements of others. Now, let's talk about personal growth and learning from mistakes. It's important to overcome defensiveness and dissonance-reducing tendencies to admit errors and embrace growth. This requires understanding one's defensiveness, building ego strength to tolerate errors, and recognizing the benefits of admitting mistakes for personal growth and meaningful relationships. Genuine growth and learning often require embracing authenticity and non-defensive communication in relationships with others.